So here we go, our final roundtable before Election Day. Do you ever think we'd get here?
Finally.
Finally, right?
We always do.
We always do, right? Time works, right? Joining us this morning, Democratic political analyst Marianne Marsh and Republican political analyst Rob Gray. It's great to see you guys. All right. You heard Kim Driscoll. She was sitting in the chair. And before we talk about the presidential race, this is kind of an offshoot in that. Before we dig into that, was the next governor of Massachusetts sitting in that chair? My point being, if Kamala Harris wins, Maura Healey goes to Washington. Is the next governor sitting in that chair this morning?
Well, Kim Driscoll someday. We don't know if Maura Healey gets an offer or that she would accept it. However, if that happens and Kim Driscoll has 2 years to be the acting governor, then run for a term, she's all but unbeatable. She's become the mayor of Massachusetts. Everybody sees her inextricably linked to Maura. They're a team. And people across Massachusetts know that if they talk to Kim and work on something, it's like dealing with Maura. So she's done a great job. She may miss being mayor of Salem, but she's mayor of Massachusetts.
I know I'm putting 15 carts
for
before
during
15
Halloween.
horses. Except for Halloween, right? I know I'm putting too many carts before too many horses, but what is your read, Rod?
Well, if Vice President Harris wins, then spin the wheel. There's going to be so much speculation, but so many pieces have to come together. Would Maura Healey be interested in Washington? I think all politicians are, but
Right.
but will an offer come? Who knows? So I mean, it could well happen that the LG gets elevated to governor, but we're going to speculate about Maura Healey's name and all sorts of other elected officials' names in Massachusetts. And probably 0 to 5% of them will actually get some type of
speculation
appointment.
is fun, however, Rob, for us. So, okay, 2 days to go. Closing arguments, trash talk, the swing states, too close to call. What's your take on the outcome? How is this going to go, Rob?
Pennsylvania will probably be decisive. It's something that we said and thought all along. And you look at the polling averages, and that appears to be what it's coming down to. But what is the decisive issue in the race? Is it the price of bacon, or is it Trump's crazy talk? I think it's also coming down to that. And in the last few days here, we're going to see if that nudges it in one direction or the other. But either of these candidates could win it all.
What do you think, Marianne, and when do you think we'll know?
Kamala Harris will win. It will be because of women, young voters 30 and under, and abortion. And you already see it in the early voting. You can draw a straight line from the huge jump in voter registration in July when she got in the race to now. All of them are voting, number one. Number two, when we first started talking about this race, when Biden was in it, we talked about 6 battleground states and 200,000 votes. Then it went to 7 states. North Carolina got thrown in when Harris got in. We are now talking about 7 battleground states and 10,000 voters who will determine this election. And 2020, we found out on Saturday. I don't think it's going to be that early. It's going to be later.
Will Trump stand up and declare victory on Tuesday night, no matter what?
Are you breathing, Eddie?
I know.
I mean, of course he is.
If he wins, if he loses.
Either way, if anyone calls it for Harris, he will get up there and say it's fake news. And I think that's the biggest threat. He is going to throw sand in the gears all the way along. There's a reason the intelligence agencies put out a public statement this week saying expect events and violence between now and January 20th.
Eddie Markey sat in that chair last week, was concerned about the same thing. Rob, will the results be accepted by the majority of Americans?
Well, they were last time. There will be again. I mean, there are always pockets who don't, Republican and Democrat. I mean, you look at Jim McGovern, didn't accept the results of prior elections that Republicans won. And so it'll go both ways. Trump's the worst offender. He will declare victory. The question is, what will he do between now and Tuesday night? 27% of the country think that we're headed in the right direction. Does Trump play into that or not? He hasn't been in recent days, but he has to win some of those 10,000 votes. And you're right, it is that narrow.
It is.
That narrow. It's remarkable with the number of votes. Maybe we're down to that tight a window.
But record turnout.
But record
Just a few
turnout.
thousand, yeah.
So let's talk about locally. Senator Elizabeth Warren and Congressman Jim McGovern will likely win their re-elections on Tuesday, but there's already a talk of them moving on. If Harris wins, McGovern has been talked about as possible Secretary of Agriculture. Some doubt that Senator Warren will complete the 6-year term. Marianne, what do you think?
She has said
she told me last week she will, but yeah.
So McGovern, I think if Democrats win the House, which I believe they will, I think he'd prefer to be chairman of Rules Committee than Secretary of Agriculture. He can then make sure those votes get taken and they get passed, and he can get more done there. I firmly believe that. He spent his whole career trying to be emulate Joe Moakley, who was his boss, as chair of Rules. So I think he'll do that. As for Warren, who knows? I have no idea what she's going to do, but she's going to, she'll obviously be reelected, and she's going around the country making sure that more Democrats get elected too.
Rob, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's just a trial balloon on Jim McGovern. I mean, it would be like Green Acres, like the city boy takes the Secretary of Agriculture. I don't think that will happen, but I agree with Marianne. It'll come down to House control, and it looks like the Republicans could maybe increase by 5-6 seats or lose control and the Democrats take over by 5-6 seats. Anything could happen. That may take weeks to settle out because it may come down to a few races in California, and they are notoriously bad at counting their vote.
Got it.
All right. The big question for us here in Massachusetts, the ballot questions and how voters decide those. Tipped wages, MCAS question 2, they're big ones. What do you think happens here, Rob?
Well, I hope it's a no on both. I don't know if it's going to be. I think that the no on 2, MCAS question, the no on 2 side, it's been a very one-dimensional campaign. They've been outspent by the teachers union. They didn't put out there that it's the teachers unions behind this race, so they may lose narrowly there.
What do you think,
I think
Marianne?
yes probably prevails on that, though they took Rob's advice during a campaign and they got checks from Mike Bloomberg. No on 5 prevails because the servers are very compelling.
Yes or no? Will the legislature step in no matter what happens?
Is today a day that ends in
And
one?
I'm still breathing.
That's
right?
why there are
Right.
ballot questions, because they're
Right.
trying to prompt the legislature to act.
Count on it. They're going to get involved.
All right.
Great. We're on the record. Stay with us.